Chapter 9. Lost Boys. The moan rolled around the clearing, as mournful as a month of Mondays. It sounded like some animal in terrible pain, but it was, in fact, not as big as medium-sized Jock, but bigger than wee Jock, who was standing on a snowdrift with one hand pressed to his heart and the other outstretched very theatrically. He was rolling his eyes too. Ooh! "Ah, the Muse is a terrible thing to have happen to ye," said Rob Anybody, putting his hands over his ears. "Oh, it is with great lamentation and much worrying dismay," the pixie groaned, "that we regard the doleful prospect of Fairyland in considerable decay." In the air, the flying creatures stopped attacking and began to panic. Some of them flew into one another. "With quite a large number of dreadful incidents happening every day," not as big as medium-sized Jock, but bigger than wee Jock recited, "including, I am sorry to say, an aerial attack by the otherwise quite attractive Fae." The flyers screeched. Some crashed into the snow, but the ones still capable of flight swarmed off amongst the trees. "Witnessed by all of us at this time, and celebrated in this hasty rhyme," not as big as medium-sized Jock, but bigger than wee Jock shouted after them, and they were gone. Feagles were picking themselves up off the ground. Some were bleeding where the fairies had bitten them. Several were lying curled up and groaning. Tiffany looked at her own finger. The bite of the fairy had left 2 tiny holes. "It isn't too bad," said Rob Anybody, shouted up from below. "No one taken by them, just a few cases where the lads didn't put their hands over their ears in time." "Are they all right?" "Oh, they'll be fine with counselling." On the mound of snow, William clapped not as big as medium-sized Jock, but bigger than wee Jock on the shoulder in a friendly way. "That lad," he said proudly, "was some of the worst poetry I've heard for a long time. It was offensive to the ear and a torture to the soul. The last couple of lines need some work, but she has the groaning off fine. Ah, in a very commendable effort. We'll make a Gonigal out of ye yet." Not as big as medium-sized Jock, but bigger than wee Jock blushed happily. In Fairyland, words really have power, Tiffany thought, and I am more real. I'll remember that. The pixies assembled into battle order again, although it was pretty disorderly, and set off. Tiffany didn't rush too far ahead this time. "That's your little people with wings," said Rob as Tiffany sucked at her finger. "Are ye happier now?" "Why were they trying to carry you away?" "Ah, they carries their victims off to their nest, where their young ones—" "Stop," said Tiffany. "This is going to be horrible, right?" "Oh, hey, gruesome," said Rob, grinning. "And you used to live here?" "Ah, but it wasn't so bad then. It wasn't perfect, mark ye, but the Queen wasn't as cold as it in them days. The King was still around. She was always happy then." "What happened? Did the King die?" "No, they had words, if you tak my meaning," said Rob. "Oh, you mean like an argument?" "A bit, maybe," said Rob. "But they was magical words. Forests destroyed, mountains exploding, a few hundred deaths, that kind of thing. And he went off to his own world. Fairyland was never a picnic, you ken, even in the old days, but it was fine if you kept alert, and there was flowers and birdies in summertime. Now there's drones and the hounds and the stinging fae and such creeping in from their own worlds, and the whole place has gone down the lavvy." "Things taken from their own worlds," thought Tiffany, as she tramped through the snow. "Worlds all squashed together like peas in a sack, or hidden inside one another like bubbles inside other bubbles." She had a picture in her head of things creeping out of their own world and into another, in the same way that mice invaded the larder, only there were worse things than mice. What would a drone do if it got into our world? You'd never know it was there. It'd sit in the corner and you'd never see it, because it wouldn't let you. And it'd change the way you saw the world, give you nightmares, make you want to die. Her second thoughts added, "I wonder how many have got in already and we don't know. And I'm in Fairyland, where dreams can hurt. Somewhere, all stories are real, all songs are true. I thought that was a strange thing for the Kelder to say. Tiffany's second thought said, hang on, was that a first thought? And Tiffany thought, no, that was a third thought. I'm thinking about how I think about what I'm thinking. At least I think so. Her second thought said, let's all calm down, please, because this is quite a small head. The forest went on, or perhaps it was a small forest, and somehow moved around them as they walked. This was Fairyland, after all. You couldn't trust it. And the snow still vanished where Tiffany walked, and she only had to look at a tree for it to smarten up and make an effort to look like a real tree. The queen is, well, a queen, Tiffany thought. She's got a world of her own. She could do anything with it. And all she does is steal things, mess up people's lives. There was a thud of hoofbeats in the distance. It's her. What shall I do? What shall I say? The Knack-Knack-Feagles leaped behind the trees. Come away to the path, hissed Rob Anybody. She might still have him, said Tiffany, gripping the pan handle nervously and staring at the blue shadows between the trees. So, we'll find out what to steal him. She's the Queen. You can't beat the Queen face to face. The hoofbeats were louder, and now it sounded as though there was more than one animal. A stag appeared through the trees, steam pouring off it. It stared at Tiffany with wild red eyes, and then, bunching up, leaped over her. She smelled the stink of it as she ducked. She felt its sweat on her neck. It was a real animal. You couldn't imagine a reek like that. And here came the dogs. The first one she caught with the edge of the pan, bowling it over. The other turned to snap at her, then looked down in amazement as pixies erupted from the snow under each paw. It's hard to bite anyone when all four of your feet were moving away in different directions. And then other pixies landed on its head, and biting anything ever again soon became impossible. The Knack-Knack-Feagle hated Grimhounds. Tiffany looked up at a white horse. That was real too, as far as she could tell. There was a boy on it. Who are you? He said. He made it sound like, what sort of thing are you? Who are you? Said Tiffany, pushing her hair out of her eyes. It was the best she could do right now. This is my forest, said the boy. I command you to do what I say. Tiffany peered at him. The dull second-hand light of Fairyland was not very good, but the more she looked, the more certain she was. Your name is Roland, isn't it? She said. You will not speak to me like that. Yes, it is. You're the Baron's son. I demand that you stop talking. The boy's expression was strange now, creased up and pink, as if he was trying not to cry. He raised his hand with a riding whip in it. There was a very faint thwap. Tiffany glanced down. The Knack-Knack-Feagles had formed a pile under the horse's belly, and one of them, climbing up on their shoulders, had just cut through the saddle girth. She held up a hand quickly. Stand still, she shouted, trying to sound commanding. If you move, you'll fall off your horse. Is that a spell? Are you a witch? The boy dropped the whip and pulled a long dagger from his belt. Death to witches! He urged the horse forward with a jerk, and then there was one of those long moments, a moment when the whole universe said, uh-oh. And still holding the dagger, the boy swiveled around the horse and landed in the snow. Tiffany knew what would happen next. Rob Anybody's voice echoed among the trees. You're in trouble now, pal. Get him! No, Tiffany yelled. Get away from him. The boy scrambled backwards, staring at Tiffany in horror. I do know you, she said. Your name is Roland. You're the Baron's son. They said you died in the forest. You mustn't talk about that. Why not? Bad things happen. They're already happening, said Tiffany. Look, I'm here to rescue my... But the boy had got to his feet and was running back through the forest. He turned and shouted, Get away from me! Tiffany ran after him, jumping over snow-covered logs, and saw him ahead, dodging from tree to tree. Then he paused and looked back.